Hola mundo. Today I decided to tell you five different mangas. My manga, webtoon. Anyways, let's jump into this. Before anything else, I just want to clarify that the art is something that I'm getting better, hopefully, if I had to compare this to my previous video. So if you have to compare that to what I have right now, then I believe at least this one looks slightly better. Black and white, so it can be more adaptable to the manga slash feeling that I want to give away. Anyways, going back to the video, the first manga I'm going to be talking about is Isekai Death Game ni Tenso Sarete Tsurai. As for the plot, Himi is an office worker who has an habit of saying I want to die whenever he feels stressed. One fateful moment, his wish was granted, and now finds himself in an arena along with a group of people that were summoned by the death god, May, to play a dead game only the last one standing can go back. This story is a fantasy seinen comedy, which I personally take a liking on it, mainly because of the jokes that has in it. It's kind of like, I think it's like the first two, three chapters. Has kind of like a sort of online kind of vibe. I don't mean like in a bad circumstances. I just mean like in the first couple of chapters or on the first episode, where the creator of the game say, "Hey, you're going to be living in here," but instead of saying that, it's like, "Hey, you have to kill each other," and Himi outsmart May, and everyone just leaves because of questions like, "Hey, what's going to happen if we had to take a toilet break? What's going to happen if this or that happened?" She got tricked, and later on the story, as it goes, he meets with like her supervisor, got a demon, then an angel, and so on. So far, I believe there is at least six chapters since it started getting published around January, and it's a really entertaining story that I have enjoyed so far. The next book is Ginpaku no Paladin. Uh, the synopsis says a criminal incident occurs on a train. A small, good hearted boy who could not move in this incident wants to help and save everyone. A mysterious old man suddenly appears and, using brilliant swordplay, is able to fight the criminals off. The boy is moved by the old man's majestic figure and becomes determined to be strong like him. This starts his learning on fencing as he becomes the old man's discipline. A man must be strong in order to protect the things he loves. Passion, hot-blooded fencing story. To be honest, this has to be at least one of the few sports stories that I ever read. The genres are school, shonen, and sports. To be honest, when I started reading this, I didn't have high expectations nor or to end up enjoying this story, mainly because it's a fencing. I'm not really a big fan of fencing, even though I have taken photos of it. I know people that had been part of a fencing club through college. So yeah, why not? Just check it out and see if it is something to my taste. And I sat down and read the first two, three chapters, and I actually ended up enjoying it more than I expected to be. So, from what I know so far, there's 47 chapters and there's a total of 5 volumes. And what makes this story quite enjoyable is how determined the protagonist is to be or to protect something that he loves the most. Your typical shonen. I honestly recommend this story to be read because I feel like it hasn't really got that much audience into it. Can't really explain this story list because I feel like it's something that you should sit down and read. I think currently, at least online from what I've found so far, there's at least 20 chapters available online. I'm not sure if it's been released in the US. Hopefully, you guys enjoy this series as much as I'm enjoying it so far, to be more exact. The next book is Ionizing. In this world, humanity has been driven underground to live like moles, hiding from the fearsome monster which roams the surface. The monsters are impervious to every sort of weapons known to men. The only ones with the power of defeat them are the Ayanashi. One day, in one such underground city, a pair of siblings encounter a mysterious boy covered in wounds. The boy introduces himself as Hollow, and in the following days slowly opens up to the pair until a monster from the surface descends upon the city, laying waste to everything in its own path. Hollow stands to face the threat, brandishing a flaming short sword attached to his right arm. And so the story of bringing light back to a world of everlasting darkness begins. To be honest, this story is amazing. I honestly recommend this more than Paladins or Ginpaku no Paladin, mainly because this story kinda feels similar to Attack on Titan with Full Metal Alchemist mixed with the world is unwrapping around the character and explaining what's going on and how each city have its own way to live, which I think is really cool. And instead of their own little caves, but out there, just like those monsters, which in a way that have that resemblance of Attack on Titans. The Fullmetal Alchemist vibe is pretty much Hollow because Hollow basically, possibly, that's from what I've heard, is that he's short and use a short blade, and anything else besides that is something that I don't really comprehend. Uh, Probably because I haven't finished Full Metal Alchemist, nor understand, nor probably understand how this story is compared to that story. The next story, and I'm probably going to butcher this so bad, is Xiang Liang Decision. I completely probably butchered that extremely bad. The English title for these stories, there is the Good Reaper, and there is the Kind Death God. The pure of heart Adai was born into a life of thievery. One day he was taken away by Gliss, a powerful alchemist, to make a god instrument. His new fate leaves him to save the life of the country's top assassin, King of Hell. To repay him, Adai is taken away by the assassin to receive intensive training. What will become of Adai? To be honest, this series, okay, I have to say amazing, probably a half of times, probably on the video, or probably, or most likely of on recording while recording this, but this is the best. To be honest, this is one of the stories I honestly get hype every time a new chapter is released, just because this story is amazing. It kind of has a vibe of like a shonen mixed with romance, a little tiny of romance, to be honest, because there are like hints here and there of romance. For example, when he was still a thief, there was a girl who was also a thief. She stole something and then returned it. But the guy who was technically supervising them was upset, so he didn't feed her. And she was like, "Oh, well, I don't have food." And Adai just decided to give her half of her food, which I think was kind of cool. And she was like, and she said, "When we finally escape from here, I'm going to marry you." And I was like, "Oh." Anyways, in some point, the girl find the person who stole a necklace that she returned, basically. And the lady decided to ask her to be part of her family. She didn't took a die, so he was kind of disappointed. Yeah, she decided and told him that once they grew up, she was going to come back and they were going to get married. And he was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And after a while, Gliss came. He took him, and things. Well, the thing is, like, the major thing about this is that Adai is a really blockhead. It's like he's so dense and so moron that is like so funny. At some point, he ended up just living with his teacher, which is Gliss. He gets trained in magic. He was this basically he Dai was supposed to be a key piece of what Gliss was intending to create, which is the God instrument. But after like living with him for 5 years, he was like, "No, dude, I can't. Like, I'm having mixed feelings." So he walked away. He left the little hut that were living, and Adai was left there by himself. He was studying. He was like basically learning all the things that he was able to learn. Then that's when the king of hell, the assassin, came in. He was rescued by him, and he was like a really gentle guy. And yeah, like I want to keep spoiling the story, but I don't really want to spoil it because it's a really amazing story. I think one of the main key points is not really a huge point, but it's like a really interesting point, at least in my opinion, on the story is that the girl that he was supposed promised to get married with, she ended up getting married, and later on, they somehow met each other, and she met him with her husband, and it was like a really tear-jerking moment. Anyways, the only thing that I personally dislike is that they change the art style, like around chapter, I wouldn't say chapter 50 or so, and that's the only thing I'm a little bit upset because I really enjoy how it looks like. But if it's for story reasons, why they decide to change the art style, I completely understand. But besides that, I'm a little bit salty on that. But everything else is an amazing story, better than possibly anything that I have read or recommend so far. Even though there's still another book which I haven't told you guys about. The next story is Terra Main. Min Jong Woo has a special ability, one that lets him see whenever a path leads to an unfortunate future. Min Jong Woo uses his eyes of misfortune to spot unfortunate events and tries to stop them, leading him becoming a terrorist feared by the people. This is a webtoon, and I have read at least 16 chapters, I believe, but I have enjoyed a lot. It's not a really amazing story. I'm sorry. But it's a really great story on how he used his powers to do good while acting like a villain. This is anti-hero where he acts like a villain, but in reality he is the hero, which I think is pretty rad. And from what I've read from the 16 chapters, is that he's basically a regular high school student, which somehow, well, not somehow, but in which he can see the future and bad endings, if you want to put it that way. He can see the bad endings, and he is trying to save people, but he can do it or explain the situation because no, he can't really explain that. So he asks for help, who is basically his nanny or something like that. And from there, things get interesting. He starts training. He builds a really small team. And from there, they act like terrorists, which, at least in my opinion, is an interesting way to do an anti-hero kind of story. Is those These kind of stories are almost non-existent besides on the Western comics, like who's a good example that I can think of? Red Hood, the Winter Soldier, I believe, the Punisher, and I can probably go on so with some of those characters, um, but it's not really related to this video. So yeah, this story is quite interesting. I personally really recommend this, like the other four stories. If you guys like my video, give some thumbs up. If not, it's totally fine. These are 5 books that I personally have enjoyed so far. Some of them I'm caught up to it. Well, most of them I'm caught up to it, except for Terra Main manga. Um, so yeah, if you guys have any recommendations that I could possibly be reading, or I could not possibly be reading, and you guys who want to let me know about it, you guys are more welcome to that. And yeah, hopefully you guys are having a really wonderful time, and I'll see you guys on the next video.